Hello and welcome to another edition of Small Talk About Big Feelings. My name is Brandon Boyd. I am the Director of Public Relations and Community Outreach for LeCom Behavioral Health. Today I have two special guests with me, not just one, but two. Welcome aboard to Dr. Sally Richards, licensed psychologist here at the Achievement Center of LeCom Health. And welcome to Carrie Todd. She is the Project Director of Project Launch and also a licensed clinical social worker. So welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. I don't mean to scare you guys, but we are just days away from one of the biggest holidays of the year. Yeah. How are we feeling?
Not ready.
Not ready.
It's a mixed bag. Depends on the day.
Okay. That's good. That's healthy, right?
Yeah.
So I think what we want to kind of talk about today, we know that the holidays are a fun time for a lot of people, right? They're joyous. They're invigorating for some. They're kind of a reset point between Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah and that sort of thing. But we know that it can also be kind of a mixed bag of emotions. There can be stressors and grief happening kind of in that same space. So I wanted to call on you two because I think you guys both can speak to kind of both sides of the coin, right?
Yeah.
I want to start maybe with you, Sally, if that's okay.
Sure.
What are the holidays like for you? Like, and maybe not professionally, but personally.
Okay.
Like, what do we see in that mixed bag of holiday stressors?
I think that's such an appropriate phrase for things. For me, it's a mix of both, excitement and something that I really look forward to, but I also experience a tremendous amount of grief during this time. I lost both of my parents in the few days following Christmas in different years, and their health, really declined during that time around Thanksgiving and leading into the Christmas season. And so I definitely have a lot of grief during this time, but I also, growing up, we celebrated Christmas in my household, and it was a very important time. And so I have a lot of really, really great memories, and it's important to me to continue to celebrate this holiday. And it's also just a very busy time. There's Christmas parties, and I sing at a church on Christmas Eve. That's a tradition every year. And so preparing for that, there's a lot to do.
Yeah. And we'll dive into some of, what you just talked about there.
Yeah.
But Carrie, I wanted to pull on some of your experience too. What are the holidays like for you?
It's different now. And we talked about even just coming on, I was like, okay, yep. And I didn't prep for any sort of topic or discussion, right? It's kind of my approach to a lot of things, honestly. But really, it's a difficult conversation for me.
These are big feelings. It's okay. As we mentioned, the holidays are a tough time, and kind of, and I don't think this is unique to this podcast, but all three of us here have experienced some pretty significant losses and grief. And as we know, the holidays are a time when family gets together and everybody's kind of connected and united, and we're missing people in some regard. So what we kind of want to dive into, I think, as we have this conversation on Small Talk About Big Feelings, are these big feelings around that feeling of joy. In my case, like I have two young children. I have a 3-year-old or almost 3-year-old, almost 1-year-old, being able to see Christmas. We celebrate Christmas through their eyes, my daughter, talks about, she's real big into like Curious George and Gabby's Dollhouse and things like that. So being able to pick out like as soon as I know an interest of my kids, I'm like buying everything from that. So being able to do that for the holidays is a lot of fun, right? But, both of you, I have experienced loss. 3 years ago, I lost my dad to cancer, and, experiencing kind of the first holidays, the first life moments beyond just the holidays was tough. Unfortunately, I also lost my brother in May. I'm a triplet, so he quite literally came into the world before me, and I had to unfortunately watch him leave this world. And that's really, it's heavy, right? We talk about, Santa carrying around that bag of toys. Like, I think this is heavier for a lot of us, right? Like,
Sure.
we're like 3 or 4 minutes in, Carrie's got the tears. This is big stuff, and we're trying to balance this alongside the craziness that is our world, and there's a lot to handle. So I think I want to maybe back up a little bit and just look at this from a professional lens, right? Like maybe if you're listening to this, you're feeling a lot of stress, you're feeling a lot of grief, you're trying to put on your best face for the holidays, right? You know that it's a joyous time and you're appreciating it, but maybe, there's those other feelings involved. So Sally, what might you say to somebody who's experiencing that kind of that mixed bag of emotions?
I would say I would just encourage folks to feel their feelings. I mean, make space for them. They're going to ebb and flow. And they might seem a little bit unpredictable. I mean, and you might feel excited and jubilant 1 minute, and then within an hour you see a commercial on TV and you're crying, and that's totally normal. And I think that I encourage folks to feel that if they have somebody that they know well and trust, that they can reach out to and share, their thoughts and feelings with. I would encourage that as well. I wouldn't encourage anybody to do anything that's making them feel overly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you feel like you need to stay home from the party, that's okay. Stay home from the party.
That was something I wanted to hit on because I think with the holidays comes a lot of expectations, right? The
Yeah.
expectation to show up to parties, the expectation
To look a certain way at these parties, to be your typical self,
right,
and present in a certain
right.
way.
We get all dressed up, or we talked before the show about the expectation of getting your kids the absolute best in the gifts and that sort of thing. How do we handle those expectations? Like, what can we do to kind of maybe not mitigate them, but at least be cognizant of them, as we're going through our experiences during the holiday season? And that could be for either one of you.
Yeah, I think that the piece of just, again, recognizing where you're at is such a profound practice, right? Because I do think it takes practice. It's not just something that comes, a lot of people aren't comfortable experiencing feelings, right? Some of us have never been taught what or how or learned those kinds of things. And so we show up in the world in different ways. And so practicing that experience, but then also the, not putting the pressure on yourself. Like there's already so much external pressure. And so how do we then give space for my best is enough right now, even if the pressure is increased, my best for right now is still enough, and not kind of slipping into putting the pressure on yourself that you feel like everyone else is already putting on you.
Right. Do you guys feel pressures on the holiday season? Like what kind of pressures, maybe not as a professional and as a human being who has a life outside of work, what kind of pressures or expectations do you guys feel?
I think for me, there's and I never felt it before, like being in grief, but there is a pressure, like you said, to show up in a certain way and to have a certain excitement about the holidays. I was telling my mom recently, people have been asking like, well, what are you doing for the holidays? And I never want to ask anyone that again. Not because I don't care, but because I now am on the other side of like, I don't have an answer that's not going to put me in tears. And I don't like that experience. And I don't want to give that experience to the person asking either. It's uncomfortable on both sides. But just that of like, oh, I need to be a certain way, and being able to kind of own like, yeah, the holidays aren't what they used to be. It's just not the same. And it's okay that they're still great for other people. Yeah. And that someday they'll probably be great for me and my family. Right now, they're not.
Sure.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
As rough as it is.
Right. Sally, would you have sort of a similar experience with that, or?
Mine is more personal to the home. I feel the pressure to make my house look a certain way. And, that was a big thing in my family was my mom took a lot of pride in how our house looked and decorating various trees, plural, and having everything up. And it looked so beautiful, and it really did feel good. But quite honestly, that's a lot of work. It's a busy time, and getting to a place where I can shift from tradition and doing things the way that it's always been done, and being able to recognize this is what's going to work for me this year, and this is what I'm comfortable with, and this is what I'm okay with. That's what's relevant for me right now.
Yeah.
And it's been different every year. What's been relevant, to be quite honest.
Different holiday seasons bring about different capabilities and different capacity, right? How do we handle a situation where maybe the world is experiencing a stressful time, but you're having a joyful time, or you're experiencing a time of grief or stress when you're supposed to be in quotations, having this joyful time? Like how do we handle that duality or that, I don't want to call it a clash of expectations versus reality, but it sort of is, right? It's the world is feeling one thing, but I'm feeling another. Is there how do we have that conversation with ourselves to kind of get out of that mindset of, if you're feeling joyful in a stressful time, maybe that feels selfish or wrong, or that you shouldn't have those feelings, or that if you're, experiencing grief or sadness during this time, that you should kind of suck it up for the good of the holiday. Like, how do we get out of that mindset?
I would say, seems like a loaded question, but ask yourself why. Why shouldn't I? Or why should I? When we should ourselves, it's kind of setting us up. And so reframe that and rethink about it, and also give yourself permission. I don't know how exactly to give yourself permission. I'm giving you permission right now. But sometimes we need to, like, why am I feeling like I can't feel this way? And just pausing and reflecting, and then reframing that question. Why shouldn't I? Or why should I? Just give yourself a pause to think about it.
I mean, as you're talking about it, this quote of like comparison is the thief of joy. And then really in this instance, we're not even comparing joy, like we're comparing grief, right? And so but comparison is the part that makes things so uncomfortable, right? Like Sally and I have similar losses and maybe have similar experiences, and I might be okay in my grief. It's uncomfortable, and I don't wish it on anybody. And I might be okay to feel that until I start looking at Sally's experience and, well, why can't I be looking forward to this? And why can't I be pulling on these memories and all of those elements that now suddenly I'm not okay in my grief because I want to be where Sally's at? There's a lot of differences between Sally and I. We might have that one loss in common, and we have a lifetime each of different experiences. But how often we move through the world and we look at like the one similarity that we have with someone, and then start, like you said, the shoulding ourselves, right? Because it is a dirty word. Like, how do we step out of that of like, your experience is your own, and you've never been in this time before. You've never been in this body before. You've never been a human on earth before.
Speak for yourself, Carrie.
Right? There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Right.
So just stepping out of the comparison piece, I think, makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point, Carrie. I want to make sure that we focus on a joyful part of the holiday season too. I want to maybe just take a step back in time, talk about some of our most joyful or happiest moments for the holidays that we remember. Is there a particular present that you got, or a time with family, or something that you recall from the holidays that is kind of your shining moment, or your lasting impression of holidays as maybe a child or a young adult?
The thing that is just popping to mind right now as you ask that question is the brilliance of my mom and dad. They set up in our bedrooms. I have an older brother, and we each had our own room, and we each had these little stockings that hung in our room. We had, a stocking with the tree and everything, but we had these little stockings in our room. And Santa would come after we went to sleep and fill those stockings with doodads and activities and little Lego sets to put together. And one year it was a New Kids on the Block tape, but I had a cassette tape player in my room. And so
Cassette player, nice.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself, and that's okay. I've come to
the doodads that gave you
away. That's what they called them. The point of it was we thought we were getting this really extra special. We could not wait to wake up and see what Santa had brought in those and put in those stockings. I didn't realize until I was an adult how brilliant that was. And my parents did that on purpose so they could sleep in a little longer, because we knew we had those activities and games to play in our room.
That is
and,
genius.
And we
That is smart.
you're welcome, everyone.
Right.
We would entertain ourselves for hours, and they could sleep a little bit. So I just think about that. I'm like, yeah, my parents were really bright.
Yeah.
My parents were really smart. And I just think that was just such a sweet memory to have now, and maybe somebody will start to implement that in their own home, and that's just a great way for, my parents to live on.
Yeah. Kind of on that track. Are there things that you took from your parents and how they did the holidays that you continue today?
I do. The Christmas Eve church service was very important, and, incorporating music into that's, something that has absolutely nothing to do with my professional life, but is very personal to me. And it's just very, very special that I get to continue to provide music on Christmas Eve. The making of certain foods. I know for our Turkey Day here at Achievement Center, I made my mom's Georgia pecan pie. She taught me how to make that when I was a kid, and that was a staple.
It got rave reviews. I just want to interrupt. I just want to kudos to Sally because it was talked about in meetings. Yeah. So people were excited.
And so now, I've gotten to a place where, and I had to work at it because there were a couple of years where I just couldn't bear to even think about making that pie. But now I'm in a place where I can be mindful as I'm doing it, and I can think of her and be appreciative of what she taught me. And that was a special thing that we had. She taught me how to bake. And so it's a way that I have a connection with her to this day. Even though she's not here physically, I still have a relationship with her in that way.
Yeah, I think that's something that I can relate to. I think, I obviously experienced Christmas as a kid, and I picture how my parents maybe saw that, and now I get the chance to be a father and see Christmas, through the eyes that, my dad saw me through. So, I find myself in moments like having little conversations in my head or like, oh, that's how you felt, Dad, just I think those are the kinds of things that keep his memory alive for me, right? Like this, he may not physically be here, and in the case of my brother now as well, but their memories live on. My brother, and I've talked about him extensively on social media and some other places, but he was nonverbal, developmentally delayed, had his fair share of issues in life. But one of the things that brought him joy were real simple things. Like he liked clothes hangers. He stemmed with clothes hangers. He was a big Diet Pop fan. He liked to cut up paper for some reason. And we would give him those for Christmas, as gifts. And I think my parents for the longest time tried to do the more traditional things, and he would just kind of dismiss them. And I can remember the first time that my mom decided to give him paper for Christmas. He opens it up, he's shaking to get this paper and do his routine and all that. And I think those are just, it's a fun reminder. And it kind of, for me now in the parent role, brings me back to that idea that it can be simple. Some of the simplest joys are what we remember most about the holiday season. And whether it's baking or what we chose, to put under that wrapping paper or what have you, I think there's a lot of different opportunities to keep the energy or the spirit or the love alive, right? And Carrie, I know that, this is a sensitive subject and it may be something that you're experiencing for the first time, but is there something that you might want to try to do to keep that love or spirit alive, or are you kind of just going through the motions and seeing what works for this first opportunity?
We're kind of in and I say we because it's my family as a whole. This is our first Christmas where I say cognizant, right? So we kind of describe the first year after losing my dad of that whirlwind of you're just quite literally going through the motions.
Yeah.
And time passes and days go on and you're just keeping your head above water. And so there's some disconnect from it for all of us. And so this really ends up being the first year that we're feeling it.
Yeah.
And that we're not all connected, So when you're talking about that element of like, there's these pieces of like, it's time where we get together and we do those things, and sitting in a place too of like, not everyone has those connections. And I'm fortunate to have them. They're just spread out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also working with people who don't have them at all. And that's a different level of hard.
Yeah.
And, the comparison piece of like where I could comparatively be like, oh, that's so much worse than where I'm at and feel worse about it, right? But also there's, I think, an element of just honoring everybody's experience of like, that's where they're at and helping them navigate their situation.
Yeah. Can we talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah.
This idea that I tend to do this sometimes, dismissing feelings because somebody out there has it worse, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's one unlucky soul in this world who has it worse than anybody, right? But there's some sort of pecking order.
Right.
And you mentioned it earlier, Carrie, we're experiencing life for the first time. These are the real feelings that we have, whether they're better or worse than someone else's.
Yeah.
How do you give prominence or appreciation to those feelings that you're having? Like, how do you not dismiss them, but accept them? Like, what does that process look like?
For me, it's kind of what we've talked about. It's just the recognition of like, this is where I'm at, and almost a like radical acceptance of this is where I'm at and this is what I'm experiencing, and someone else's experience, better or worse, doesn't diminish mine, right? Like I think when I talk about this, I always think of my mom was a mom that was like, finish your food. And other adults are like, there's hungry kids somewhere else. And as an adult, I look at it now and I'm like, there are hungry kids somewhere else, and it doesn't make me any more hungry. It doesn't change my experience.
Right.
And so looking at it of having, I think, space and grace for everyone, regardless of where they're at. And I know shifting away like from me, but looking at other people of everyone has their own stuff, right? And you don't always know, oftentimes, you don't know what the other stuff is. And so being able to then give grace for how other people might be moving through the holidays. Like, what does that look like for them? You don't know. So can we just operate out of a place of kindness and decency, and maybe not just around the holidays, but like year round?
I like it. That's an inspiring message. Sally, do you have similar experiences or thoughts with that?
I do. As you were talking, I was thinking back, because this was a topic that would come up, very frequently when I was still in private practice, and primarily my work was, providing therapy. And the analogy that I used was, and it goes back to what you were saying about, comparing and how that can set us up for some things that we don't really need. Think about it. If you were to have lost your foot, would that hurt? Would that hurt? Would that be painful if you were to have your foot cut off?
It would.
Okay.
I can confirm that.
But the person next to you had both feet cut off. What benefit do you get from, like, saying, well, mine's not as bad as theirs?
It's just one foot.
It's just one foot. No, yours is still very painful. And so, and that analogy tended to help people kind of put that perspective into place about, like, my stuff's important too.
Mm-hmm.
And your emotional pain is just as important as your physical pain. And so your pain is valid, and, here's a should that's appropriate. You should feel it.
Okay, so we're allowed to should in
Sometimes.
this case. Yeah.
I said so.
Okay. That's from Dr. Sally Richards, by the way. I want to take what we're going to call a little feelings field trip. Okay?
Everybody on? Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful. No yelling on the bus.
We're going to go to whatever holiday you celebrate that morning. We're having a breakfast, okay? We're very food motivated here.
Oh.
So we're going to use food analogies here to kind of describe how we're feeling this holiday season, okay? So are you droopy eggs? Are you burnt out toast? Are you orange juice? Do you have pulp? No pulp? What kind of breakfast foods are you guys? And I'm going to start because I'll give you guys time to think about this because I sprung it on you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with burnout toast.
Okay.
I have a lot going on in life. Work is crazy. I enjoy it, but there is a lot of different things to juggle on my plate at one time. I have 2 young kids, so that's a lot on my plate. And as we've talked about here, I'm going through my own grief journey and experiencing loss for the first time. And, being a parent and experiencing all those fun times for the first time while also figuring out who I am, beyond just a parent, but, growing and evolving as a person like that. It takes a lot of mental capacity, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a little burnt out, but I'm also, I guess we could say scrambled eggs too, because my brain can be a little scrambled and I forget things at times. But I'm also like a nice tall glass of orange juice. I can see the bright disposition of everything, right? Like I know I think of the color of the orange juice kind of like the sun, right? Like it's bright, it's cheery, it's like refreshing, it's joyful. I think I'm just like a nice big bowl of fruit too, right? Like I bring the sweetness to any occasion that I'm at. And my family would not agree with that, and that's a joke. I am fairly calm and reserved, so maybe it's more like a plain bowl of oatmeal. Okay. But regardless, I have a mixture on my plate. It's full, but I've come to appreciate that it's full. What are we thinking? What's on our feelings field trip right now?
I just want to take a moment to appreciate your breakfast because as you're going through all of that, I'm like, old reliable.
Yeah.
Like
I was trying to be well balanced. Like I think about what I was like. Even in a mock exercise, I'm like, I have to eat healthy, and I have to.
I gotta have all the things.
Right. So what are we thinking?
What's your?
Are you ready?
I don't know.
Okay, I can go. So I really liked your scrambled eggs because I feel that way too. Like just things are so busy. My scrambled eggs have cheese in them because I love that little bit of humor, and I love cheesy humor. I also think about a warm, gooey cinnamon roll, especially that one that's like in the center of the pan that doesn't have any crispy crusty around it. Just the warm and gooey center. Like I'm a sensitive person, and I like to think of myself as very warm and flavorful and something that people want to have around.
Yeah.
And that is a thought of and something that, is enjoyable. I have to think about something, though, where I forgot an ingredient for something because that would also be part of my breakfast, where some dish I forgot to put in some kind of ingredient because that's also how I feel right now is like, I'm going to forget something. Right. I just know it.
Right. I know. That's how it goes.
I'd probably forget I forget that I have apple cider in my fridge to drink.
Right. And you bought it specifically for the morning.
For the morning.
And you
to have.
Finished your...
And
yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. Well, thank you for sharing. Carrie?
Okay, I just want to clarify. Are we talking about ourselves in this moment as a breakfast or like in life?
We could do either. I had it as a moment, like in this space, but if you want to talk about life, that's cool too.
No, let's not.
Okay.
I've opened up enough today.
Yeah, right.
Let's just right now. I feel like I am currently just like breakfast casserole. Like you're gonna take a bite and you don't necessarily know what you're gonna get, right? Like you might get different ingredients.
Yeah.
And I feel like right now in my experience, I'm like, I don't know, I might be laughing, I might be crying.
Yeah.
It's
all in there somewhere.
It's all in there, right?
Together too.
And you never quite know which poke is going to be the poke that gives you the bite you want, or the bite that you're like, that was lackluster. And coffee, just because I love it. Just strong black coffee, no cream, no sugar, nothing.
Okay.
Just power through.
In a healthy way.
Yeah.
Power through in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your breakfast foods. I'm now hungry for lunch.
Exactly. My stomach really just growled.
I want to maybe just piggyback off this breakfast casserole idea, right? So what do you do when you take a bite and it's not what you expected, or it's not maybe what you quote unquote wanted. Like, you're trying to experience joy and instead you're experiencing grief, or you want to be present for something but you're distracted. Like, how are we handling that? Like, what kinds of tools or tips or tricks do we have that our listeners can take away and kind of apply as they're living those real life experiences during their holidays?
I always recommend the pause. I'm a huge proponent of breath as just a reset. Of just it's not always about the breath itself. It's the time it takes you to take the breath and just shift your focus for a moment. When we talk about the acceptance and the leaning into your feelings, but I also feel like it's important to acknowledge that sometimes those feelings are overwhelming and sometimes they're too much. And there's, societally a time and place to have those feelings, right? So crying in the grocery store because this pie reminds you of something, people tend to have thoughts about it. And it's okay. You can cry in the grocery store. And if it's now's not the time, now's not the space, being able to take the breath and make the choice to focus on something different, right? Choosing a distraction isn't a problem. It's sometimes when we default to distraction without knowing it, or we've come to rely on the distraction. And so that decreases our ability to feel and process the emotions. But I want to give space too to sometimes it's about choosing, I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to go back to the living room and I'm going to focus only on my kids. I'm going to compartmentalize this and set it aside, and I can come back to it later if I choose to.
I like that. Yeah. Sally, anything?
I mean, very similar with just checking in with yourself. Just do a quick scan, do a quick check to say, where am I right now? How am I right now?
Yeah.
And just, take a little inventory.
Right. I want to just wrap up the episode. I would wish you a happy holidays, but I want to wish you the holidays that you're feeling, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's something that we just maybe assume that everybody's going to have a happy holiday. We know that it's not always the case. So I want to wish you guys holidays.
Thank you.
Whatever that means.
I wish you a realistic holiday season.
We could start saying that in the grocery store, have a realistic holiday season.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mouthful, but I feel like it could work.
I noticed after Thanksgiving, I started saying to people, I hope you had the holiday you wanted, or I hope you had the holiday that you intended to have. Whatever that looks like for you, I hope it was what you wanted it to be.
So you're not putting that expectation that it had to be happy. Yeah, absolutely. If you're experiencing any sort of anxiety or grief that maybe becomes too much to handle outside of the holiday season, we know that emotions can be kind of elevated during this time, but if it's something that you're experiencing at all times, certainly all of us at Lecon Behavioral Health are able to assist you as well. But any other wrapping thoughts on, I guess maybe pun intended, wrapped thoughts on the holiday season? Yeah, cheesy. There's that cheesy. On the holiday season or your experiences or any sort of lasting professional tip that you'd want to give?
I think the only thing I just want to add is it's going off of what Carrie was saying about how people feel a certain way about, showing their emotions, more publicly, personally, and professionally. I think that that's one of those things that continues to stigmatize the expression of our emotions. And so, I've, in working with a lot of parents who have felt shame in, feeling their feelings in front of their kids, I can't let my kids see me cry. I can't let them see me feel.
Right.
Why not? Why not? Because if you're not showing them, you're implying that it's not okay. And so, I agree with what Carrie said about there is a time and a place, and sometimes and you're your own best judge of that. But I also would want to encourage people to make sure that they're making that space, and that if it is in the middle of a grocery store or in the middle of Kohl's when they pick up a hat that reminds them of their dad and they just start bawling, that's okay. That's okay. And you're okay.
Absolutely. We had some big feelings here today, but we had some good small talk. So thank you both, Dr. Sally Richards and Carrie Todd, for being on Small Talk About Big Feelings. And that is a wrap. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.